There are 8 teams left in the dance. Who will walk away with the Lombardi? Yes, hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe, 2 in Love. Wildcard weekend was pretty substantial and pretty interesting as far as teams' futures going forward. But overall, yes, it was substantial as far as the games go. A bit underwhelming, I think we can say, how some of the games go, but some things happen. Not every game is a good game, but certainly fun to see. We'll go over all from NFL Super Wildcard Weekend. UFC 297 is this Saturday, so that'll be interesting to go over and preview when time is right. But yeah, and look ahead to the first ever bellator PFL hand-to-hand or versus card or co-op card pretty much on February 24th. Some good stuff to go forward, and as well as, casual news and parts on NFL, football, whichever you want to say, going forward. But nonetheless, thank y'all for joining me. First of all, want to give thanks and shout out to whoever from last night's. So, I'll be talking about sports today, but for those last night who decided to tune in and watch and like the short from last night on the old Jack Perry, Nick Nemeth, them situations for TNA and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you. Definitely has gotten the most notoriety as far as one of my videos on podcasts is concerned. And thank y'all so far that has subscribed thus far. We're finally have a 3 in front of the subscriber column. So that's plus. Let's keep striving forward. But nonetheless, if you guys are new, then the subscription box there somewhere over on this side of the channel page, and then of course the like button over here as well. So thank you guys. Appreciate it along the way. Let's continue forward. So before we get into the games from Wildcard Weekend, some interesting news regarding one of the losers and the downfall of last night's game between Tampa Bay and Philly. So I'll go over that game in a bit, but Jason Kelce, the not as appreciated Kelce. Travis has obviously gotten more exposure and love the last few years, being on the Chiefs, being affiliated with Mahomes, and those State Farm commercials, all that jazz. And especially now that he's been with Taylor Swift, he's got more exposure. But the other Kelce, who is, is a part of commercials, not as much, but, centers are a underappreciated position because they are the captains of the offensive line. They make sure who goes where. I mean, yeah, center and left tackle are definitely the biggest. Unless your QB is left-handed, then it'd be right tackle. But nonetheless, you know what I mean. Center, left tackle, two most important positions on the O-line, which make the engine run. And, you know, I hit my nose on my microphone, but nonetheless. So, Jason Kelce, just want to make this right because he was drafted in 2011. Yeah. Just want to make... Yeah. Let's see. Da-da-da. That's the cool thing about the podcast is you can't... Doesn't have to always be super prepared, but yeah. Drafted 2011 in the Cincinnati in the 6th round. That's the other thing. 6th round center, Cincinnati, who, you know, came in, was part of that late regime of Andy Reid. You know, he was on his way out of Philly. It sucked because, you know, at the end of 2012, when they didn't do so well, Andy Reid was the scapegoat, you know, after many years of being close, you know, but didn't really get there. And then tried to can't say where he is now. And even when he had Alex Smith, you know, the team was a motor, the team was good, and the team was ready. So that was certainly a fresh start for him. But yeah, Jason Kelce concerned last few years under Andy Reid, then Chip Kelly those years, a couple good years, but you know, that ship sailed pretty quick. And then Doug Peterson ultimately winning the Super Bowl in 2017, that thrilling Super Bowl over the Patriots with Nick Foles at QB. Excuse me. But that was one of the best Super Bowls you'll see, back and forth. That was a fun one. And then, you know, they let go of They let go of Doug Peterson in 2020 or after 2020 season, and then they went with Sirianni. And, you know, since then, Sirianni, you know, success has been there, but nonetheless, 6 All-Pro selections, got an All-Pro this year. You know, there was rumors that, you know, could he retire after the Super Bowl, lost to the Chiefs last year, but ultimately decided to come back for at least another season. Unfortunately, that loss versus Tampa, you know, seeing him cry on the sideline, I mean, when I first got into really NFL and, you know, researching and discovering it and all that jazz, 3 centers stuck out to me as really being best of best. You know, Jason Kelce, Jason Kelce, Alex Mack, Marquise Pouncey, and now all are retired. Yeah, it's well, he's been a real leader for the Eagles and certainly a character. You could just see how he performed in that celebration parade after the Eagles won the Super Bowl over the Patriots a number of years ago. See how much energy and insight he provides for the organization. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, certainly has a gold jacket waiting for him in Canton in the future. But yeah, a great career for Jason Kelce, 13 seasons. Yeah, it's a blow. Plus, I mean, last year they drafted Cam Jurgens, who, speaking of which, did not have a fond game in Tampa Bay. But they drafted him pretty much to be his replacement, it seemed. Well, now it appears he's going to get his chance next year. Well, it seems. So let's go over NFL wildcard, the games. After, oh dang, I hate when my camera does this. And we're back. So now, time to talk about the games. Talk about NFL wildcard weekend. So, I don't think. Here's what I'll get into. First of all, it's bad with my predictions. I was great yesterday. I picked the Bills. I picked the Bucks. So there's that. But I picked the Browns. I mean, I think many felt it was going to be a close game, but I just felt the Browns, played more Super Bowl playoff ready coming in. And that was a treat for some of it. I originally picked the Chiefs, but ultimately I went with the Dolphins. I thought with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, I thought they would have a better job at running the ball in that cold -4-degree weather. I was wrong. Chiefs defense prevailed again. So there. Cowboys fell flat against the Packers. And then Lions won by 1. But first, let's get into the first game of the weekend. Browns-Texans. So, Texans won 45-14. So, originally, I think we can agree, this looked like it was going to be a shootout. Balls to wall, blazing. Looked like it was going to be a fun game. So, I mean, Texans drive down after they hit a big play to Nico Collins. He knew he was going to have to step up again. No Tank Dell. Collins would be the vocal point. And so, but after one play, leaving Myles Garrett unblocked, and then CJ Stroud managed to get away, it felt like the drive was stalled, and they had to settle for a field goal. So, Texans were on the board first. And then, after a big play from Njoku, Flacco and the Browns were up in good territory, which allowed a rushing touchdown by Kareem Hunt. So there you go. So then it was 7-3. But Texans came back, rallied back with a touchdown drive to make it 10-7. Browns did the same. Touchdown, and then a flip to Hunt. There you go. It is 14-10. But this is where I felt the game changed. I think May would say. So the Browns, ever since this kind of mold of new offense and new style of the team, more playing through the defense and Joe Flacco making big plays. But the defense was really at its top. Or really was the main priority. So it's like, I'm sure the Browns thought, okay, well, now they're up 14-10, they can breathe a little, play defense, maybe try to shut down this, or try to slow down this game, run with Jerome Ford. It's that. Well, they didn't really have much time to breathe because one play later, it's a throw out to Brevin Jordan, and he takes it to the house for a touchdown to right back ahead. CJ Stroud and the Texans up 17-14 in a blink. And then it's a shootout. And then all of a sudden, so this was going to be a test because in the previous game, Amari Cooper went off for over 200 yards receiving. And they had no Grenard, no Will Anderson. I'm not sure if Derek Stingley played that game, but that's another thing. How he's improved as a very good corner. I did take into account that would be a close game, but my bad. So then all of a sudden, when the offense doesn't hit as well, and the Texans defense is starting to do what I think many people thought the Browns defense would be able to do. They made a stop, and then all of a sudden we get another touchdown by CJ Stroud, and then there you go. No. To Don Schultz. So then coming out of halftime. So Flacco and the Browns, they hit like one big play to Mark Cooper near midfield. Tried to get some points before the half. That was not the case. Sack pretty much ruined it. So then coming out of the second half, so they make a stop, and then Browns are driving. And then, so it's like they're in Texans territory. It's like, okay, well, it looks like they're about to make it a game again. And then all of a sudden, Flacco under pressure. When you make big plays and big plays and big plays, you start to get greedy. And maybe you just saw it. It's like, okay, it was either going to be a completion or incomplete. Instead, worst case scenario, as in it was picked off while he's under duress. And they take it to the house. So then all of a sudden, it goes from probably making it a one-score game again to now it's a three-score game. So there you go. So it's like, okay, Browns definitely got to make big plays now. Now all of a sudden gets picked off and then taken back to the house again. So it's like, well, Flacco, the experience. Because, I mean, it was going well to start, but then you go back and realize, well, 13 touchdowns, but 8 picks in his 5 starts. So, I mean, you took the good with the bad, but the defense was playing well, and unfortunately on Saturday, there was good early on, but unfortunately their defense was not playing up to really the task, and then all of a sudden the bad happens from Flacco, and it's at the bad time when their defense was not doing well. So it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, Flacco, Brown season done. Flacco, that story was very good. It sucks that it ended so abrupt. But credit to him, Myles Garrett, Owos Carmola, Denzel Ward, I mean, all that crew, their season, one done. CJ Stroud and the Texans, what a turn of events. Last week, they needed a win and help to win the division and they got it, match win the division. Now, if it was the Jags or the Colts, I think perhaps the Browns would have won, or you would have felt more confident about them winning. But that's the thing about how CJ Stroud has been playing in this young defense. It's something. And you see, they're going to pose a challenge to Baltimore. I will not be making my predictions on this episode today, but it will be fun Saturday to see Baltimore host the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, something's got to give. And it will be fun to see. So then, hope everyone had their jackets or whatever on, and I'm sure they did, and much more, as it was -4 degrees. -4 degrees in Kansas City. The fourth coldest game in NFL history. So, how would this go? Certainly be a task. So, the Chiefs' offense, Chiefs in general, have not looked as good. Despite the record, what everyone say, they've just not looked as good as in recent years. But that defense, has been their big shining light. And going into this game, the Dolphins were reeling, coming off 2 straight losses to Baltimore and Buffalo for the division, which, if they had just won one of those, they would have won the division and would have hosted the Bills in Miami, but here they were on the road in Kansas City, and that was their fate. Now, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Waddle, those injuries certainly played a part in their losses as of late. So it would be interesting to see what they could do with them back. And it kind of felt like a need to do good game from Tua. You say that, yes, it was his playoff debut because he was not healthy for the game last year in Buffalo, but Tua, his contract extension coming up. Now, he did have his 5th-year option put in place, but we're in this point of reference in the NFL ranks where we're judging. It's like, okay, who's going to be the next guy, unfortunately, to get this amount of dollar dues? It's unfortunate, but it's how it is. It's like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Tua, Burrow got paid, Herbert got paid. Certainly, yeah. So this game certainly felt like an important game to that aspect. Because, yes, Tua had a very good year last year when he was healthy, but hint when he was healthy. And he was healthy this year, but kind of wasn't as up to par with the offense because sounds weird, but they had a losing record for winning teams, and I mean their only win with over a team with a winning record was Dallas, and that was last second field goal or last minute field goal. So I mean, this was a challenge for Miami. Unfortunately, they did not pass. Literally, and Tua, I like him. Tua in that offense, is very, very good, But this is definitely not the team that scored 70 on the Denver Broncos. Team that felt different and, the cold, you know, Kansas City's defense, I mean, credit to them. Rashee Rice had a very good game. There was numerous times where I was like, when are they going to put Jalen Ramsey on Rashee Rice? Unless he's covering Kelce, which he had a nice night as well. And he's not been as Kelce-like as of late, but, goes for both of them. Yeah, now, Miami's defense did buckle down numerous times in the red zone, forced Kansas City to kick field goals, but nonetheless, Miami's defense was just stuck in mud, it felt like, most point. And then, Tua has that pick over midfield. Yeah, it was just not well. But yeah, 26-7 Chiefs win. Miami. Yeah, well, Tua's going to go in the fifth-year option, and he's going to really have to have an improving year if he wants a big money deal for his next contract. Because right now it doesn't look so sure. And you have to know because Tyreek Hill, still making his money. Jalen Waddle, he's gonna want to be paid soon. Not right. So this was well, nonetheless, he's gonna want a contract extension in the future. Jalen Waddle, I mean, Mostert, but they gotta work on the O line. I mean, obviously, the injuries on defense hurt them. They still did a fine job on defense, but yeah, the injuries, Phillips, Chubb, Van Ginkel, etc. But yeah, is what it is. Miami's gonna have a long off season. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Cowboys, Dallas Cowboys, who got wrecked 48-32. Now, you could look at this from a number of different ways because, look, I told my dad on Saturday, it's like, okay, Dallas should win, right? If they don't fall flat. And they fell flat. Right out of the beginning. I mean, their defense, I get they haven't been the greatest defense, but I mean, still, it felt like. Now, I will credit Jordan Love did make some very good throws. Went off his back foot, but nonetheless, it felt like Dallas, when they were on the brink, to get them off the field, they just could not. I mean, their defense was mowed over by Green Bay. Fell off 27-0. Dak threw 2 picks. Here's the thing about the 2 picks. So, Dallas was down 7-0. Really? I hate when my camera goes blurry this time. Okay, we'll try to go faster. So, after 7-0, it's like, okay, Dallas just has to have a clean drive, and then they can tie up, and then relax. So, Dak throws a pick to Jair Alexander. And if you ask me, now I picked Dallas, but nonetheless, it looked like Jair Alexander held Brandon Cooks. And, Jair got the pick. Now, called contact, not the contact, whatever you want to say. Nonetheless, it was picked for Dak, and then shortly after, it was a touchdown for the Packers, 14-0. So then all of a sudden it was 20-0, and it looked like, okay, well, despite this bad start, Dallas gets the ball and starts the second half. So, if Dallas can get a touchdown here, and then they get the ball and start the second half, that they can get a touchdown there, double up, then it's a one-score game again. So it's like, okay. And then early in the game, there was that I wouldn't say arguing, but it was a little chatter between Dak and CeeDee Lamb. And when you have a target, your number one target who's quite unhappy, you gotta try to force the ball to him. And that's what it kind of felt like. Dak forced in to CeeDee Lamb. It was a pick six. Darcy blows. It's 27-0. So it's like, damn. Okay. Well, we saw this episode last year with Jaguars over Chargers, but it's not the case. They got a touchdown, make it, and then a field goal and make it 10, 27-10. Packers answered with a touchdown drive you know, Cowboys got a touchdown, 2-point conversion, make it a 2-score game, but then they just couldn't stop, and then, yeah. 48-32. You guys have heard my opinions on Dak. I thought he was making strides, his touchdown interception stuff, played well both times for Philly. Yes, he played crappy against San Francisco. Played well there, played well against Miami. They beat Seattle. It just felt like they were due for one game, at least one game in the playoffs. That was not the case. Not the case. So, with Bill Belichick out there, it's totally possible. Mike Vrabel out there. Yeah, it's totally possible. Mike McCarthy fired. Dak Prescott, perhaps its last season in a Cowboys uniform. Dan Quinn, we know he's going to be hired somewhere. We're in for a shift probably in Dallas. That's just the way it seems. As for Green Bay, congrats. Congrats, ultimately. We saw how Jordan Love was improving and how he's looking better down the stretch, particularly after Thanksgiving against Detroit. But the team I saw face Chicago, and then, to me, didn't look like a team that be able to pull this off. And people were surprised, and credit Jordan Love. It wasn't a great performance, but it was really, really solid. And, credit to him, credit to Aaron Jones. They got a tough task in San Francisco, but hey, we'll see. We'll see. Then what was the game of the weekend? I think we can all agree. Lions hosting the Rams. This was unique on many levels. Definitely the best game of the weekend. 1-point game, 24-23 Lions. First home playoff game, 30 years. Goff versus Stafford. Stafford back in Detroit. Just so many fun variables. But ultimately, when it came down to the game, very good. Very good. Felt like it was going to come down to the trenches. Detroit has a very good offensive line. But they were given issues by Dallas. And on defense, and you were quite curious, could the Rams replicate that? And they did for a bit. But for a while, it looked like the Lions' offensive line was just moving. And then, it was the course of, can the Rams hit the big plays they need to get it done? And they hit very big plays down the stretch. It was it was 21-17, and then there you go. So after it was 24-17 Lions, Rams had numerous drives in plus territory to go down for touchdowns and take the lead. Lions defense held tight, and credit to Stafford. On a couple throws, first on throw, he banged off Liam McNeil's helmet. His hand was already kind of wrapped. Bled again, so that was something that was tough enough. And then he got drove down, got hit, and then kind of was stepped on by the Lions late in the game, but held up. 24-23. Rams have the ball. Over the 50. We know Maher has a big leg. We've seen them drill a 62-yarder before. So it's like, okay, well, they don't need to get this first down. They just need to get some yards to give Maher a chance, basically, to get the lead. And they only have one timeout, so this is crucial. Instead, they go for it all, go for Nakua in traffic, and it's incomplete. Yes, there was contact, but at the same time, I didn't like the call. Really. I get it. Nakua was having a monster day. Had 182 yards receiving. But at the same time, you realize, okay, one timeout. It's a 3rd and long. You just need a few yards to... You just need a few yards to kick a potentially game-winning field goal. Instead, and Maher did well that day. So, yeah. But in the end, Rams, no call. They have to punt, and then Jared Goff on 2nd 9, out of the 2-minute warning, throws a dart to Amon-Ra St. Brown to get it done and clinch it 24-23. Ultimately, it's the Lions and Goff that have the last laugh. And it's crazy. Lions haven't had a playoff win in over 30 years. They got one now. Hadn't had a home playoff game in 30 years. Well, all of a sudden, they're going to have 2. Since they won, Stafford, I get it, with Brady, it was a weird reception because, cheer him before the game, but during the game, kind of boo him because you want to win. But nonetheless, the stakes, it was a great game. Very good. Big plays. And the Lions go forward. Rams, credit to Les Snead. um, you know, the way they've done in the draft, because a couple years ago when they won the Super Bowl, go all in. You sign OBJ, you sign Von Miller. I mean, all jazz. You trade for Stafford, give him that big deal, etc. Nonetheless, you thought it'd be for a while. You thought they'd be rebuilding this year. And credit to their draft picks. And yeah, because it gets none bigger than Kyron Williams, who had a great year running the ball, missed 6 games. Puka Nacua broke the record for rookie touchdowns or rookie receiving yards and receptions this year. And they tried out. They fought very well, but ultimately didn't get the win. So credit to them. But I mean, this is a really good sign for going forward because they're mostly a young team. And this experience will pay dividends for them in the future. Yeah. As for Rams, I mean, good for Goff, good for Gibbs, Hutchinson, St. Brown, Williams, etc. Decker, Ragnell, all those guys that, have hung in with Detroit for the last few years and getting their first home playoff win in over 30 years. Yeah, goes there. And then moving to Monday. So, Bills beat the Steelers 31-17. So, they got the snow off the field, but in the stands, it was still a party. It was still fun. Especially after the Bills scored a touchdown. So, there you go. So, righty there. So, Bills jumped up 21-0. And it's like, okay, Steelers got to have some type of life. They blocked a field goal, which would have made it 24-0. They managed to managed to get a touchdown. They managed to make it competitive down the stretch. I mean, 24-17, but ultimately the last touchdown by great effort by Shakir. Really gave comfort at the end for the Bills in Buffalo. Got it done. So now they host the Chiefs next week. We've seen Bills and Chiefs before, but in the playoffs, but in Kansas City. Now it's in Buffalo. Crowd will be on the Bills' side. Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game. So it's going to be a unique test on both sides. Of course, the game early in the season was fun and it was close. Obviously, for the Chiefs, they remember that offsides call that took away the touchdown. But yeah, it was. We'll see how it goes next week, but it's going to be fun. As for Steelers, they were non-acknowledged at 7-7. They looked in the mud. Looked like Mike Tomlin was going to have his first losing record as a head coach. They found a way. They went with Mason Rudolph. Found a way to win 3 straight, get to the playoffs, goes to them. They just ran to the juggernaut in the Bills. Had a fight in them, but wasn't enough. Now, if I was a Steelers fan, I was probably pissed about the noise of not being able to play in the snow because I think it might have favored Buffalo in a way with the way Steelers love to play ball. Now, yes, T.J. Watt would have been a benefactor there if he had played, but unfortunately he wasn't. So, yeah. And last but not least, Tampa Bay over Philly, 32-9. I mean, what more can you say about Philly and their collapse? They felt broken coming in, and the way they looked at this game on defense particularly felt broken. I mean, the missed tackles, the undiscipline, they did make some sacks and pressure on Baker and crew later in the game, but it just felt like the majority of the game they were lackadaisical. Like lackadaisical. And now, mostly in the red zone, they were able to buckle down for a while, but Tampa Bay were able to keep moving the ball and moving the ball and moving the ball. I mean, yeah, that was a some game, and Baker, real credit to him. Real credit, great for him after the sad last few games or last few years he's had, but it's been great for him. Winning Tampa Bay to winning season, division, and now a playoff victory. Going to Detroit now. It's going to be fun. Going to be a fun rematch to look towards to. This time it's in Detroit though, so yeah. But yeah, we're down to the final 8. Detroit, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Houston, San Francisco, Green Bay. It's going to be an interesting task to see who comes out on top. But we'll make predictions in the next week. So we'll have to keep up with that. But it should be fun. So, dang it, my phone's being slow. I don't know why. Sorry. So, a weird thing that though happened. So, in the Rams-Lions game, which you hate to see. So, tight end Tyler Higbee. He took a big hit from Kirby Joseph. Now, people will play, speculator and superstitious hosts here, but, Kirby Joseph is the one that, laid the hit on TJ Hawkinson, which ended his season abruptly in that game versus Detroit. And then, now in this playoff game, Kirby Joseph, who's one of the better corners in the league, laid it in on Tyler Higbee and was a big hit. Luckily, he was able to get on his feet, but tore his ACL in the process, and that's, yeah, that's blow there. Cameron Ward. So, the former Washington State QB. So, it was a weird process. So, he originally declared for the NFL draft. Apparently, he must not have liked his draft evaluation. So, he then undeclared, putting his name back in the transfer portal, and then opted to go to Miami. So, to the U. So, we'll see. We'll see. Another interesting name is Will Rogers, who we saw on the sidelines for the national championship for Washington. Presumed to be the heir to Michael Penix at Washington. It's not the case, as he has re-entered the transfer portal after the moves made in Washington. Now it's Jed Fish, not Kalen DeBoer. Losing Penix, losing your top 3 wideouts, losing your top 2 tight ends, potentially towards the NFL draft. I mean, it's blow right there on offense. So much. Yeah. So, February 24 is the first big cross-promotion event between Bellator and PFL. So they lay out the card, number of unique matchups. Now, I don't watch PFL, but it's going to be an interesting blow for blow to see how these matchups shake out. So, gonna have 4 champion versus champion matchups. So, we got Hen Ferreira versus Ryan Bader. Impa Kisagnawe, apologize, butcher his name, but against Johnny Eblin. Magomed Karimov versus Jason Jackson at welterweight. Jesus Pinedo versus Patricio Pitbull at welterweight. Could be a nice clash there. Seeing Thiago Santos versus... I didn't know he was in... That's going to be a neat clash. Thiago Santos versus Yoel Romero. Of course, both were in a unique time in the UFC. So, not that, but plenty of matchups right there. UFC 297. So, I figure I might wait on towards the predictions video to do it, but yeah, pretty unique. See what's going on in the world of basketball really quick. Give some little recap on the scene. Oh yeah, so one mention thing because it made some noise. So the other day, Jerry Krause, former GM of the Chicago Bulls, was put in the Ring of Honor by the Bulls. So his widow was there. And for a while, it was booze. And she cried. And it was not a pleasant scene. Also, the commentators of Bulls pointed out and called it, and yeah, it was just not pleasant sight. Now, if you watch The Last Dance, now, I was taking my first steps when the Bulls dynasty was basically at the end. But nonetheless, growing up, you hear about the Bulls dynasty. And I watched The Last Dance, because I was intrigued about the history, It's certainly unique to see the story of what went into it between Jordan and Pippen and, all these guys. I mean, Rodman, Steve Kerr, Phil Jackson. Get the point. But for those who watch The Last Dance, you'll know that Jerry Krause was not really put into a positive light in that series. He was kind of vilified. Now, he's now passed away, and I think Charles Barkley said best. Whether you like him or don't, he's passed away now, and his wife was there, and to make her cry, that's just a disgraceful scene for the town, for the city, and of Chicago. Just wasn't fancy. I get it hasn't been good for a while, especially. But be grateful that the dynasty was there rather than not. So, that's all I can say. But, yeah. Think I'm gonna save the UFC 297 predictions for Saturday or Thursday episode. But it should be fun. UFC 297 headlined by Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis. Should be fun. But yeah, I'll have that predictions up for Thursday. Of course, preview of NFL divisional round, those 4 high stakes games. Keep up, as well as talk about a little bit of basketball and whatever's going on between now and then. So, nonetheless, thank you guys all for joining me today. Again, thank you, folks, for to my recent shorts and, blowing up. Thank you all. Let's continue the road. Let's continue moving forward. Hope for more, hope for the best. But nonetheless, thank you guys. See you guys next time. See you Thursday. Adios. Peace.